Black billionaire wears janitor uniform on date. She doesn't care about his job. Talks dreams, not dollars. He's buying her dream bakery. Madison Pierce had perfected the art of looking interested while being utterly bored. She sat across from Trevor Hutchinson III at the Sterling Room, Seattle's most exclusive rooftop restaurant, watching him gesture with his Rolex-adorned wrist as he described his third vacation home. The city lights glittered below them like diamonds on black velvet, the Space Needle piercing the night sky in the distance. But all Madison could think about was the strawberry cheesecake recipe she'd been tweaking for weeks. So then I told the contractor, "If you can't source Italian marble, don't bother calling," Trevor continued, his voice carrying that particular pitch of someone accustomed to being heard. "My father always says, 'That's wonderful,'" Madison interrupted gently, her green eyes drifting towards the window. At 26, she'd been on exactly 17 dates her mother had arranged, each one more suffocating than the last. Her blonde hair was pulled into the elegant chignon her mother insisted upon. Her designer dress felt like a costume, and the 4-carat engagement ring Trevor had spontaneously produced during appetizers sat heavy in her purse. Politely declined. Trevor's face reddened. "Madison, are you even listening? This is about our future." "Our future?" She finally met his gaze. "Trevor, we've known each other for 6 weeks. You've spent 5 of those weeks talking about your portfolio. That's what matters. Financial security, social standing. What about passion? Purpose?" The words escaped before she could stop them. "What makes you excited to wake up in the morning?" Trevor blinked, genuinely confused. "Making money?" Madison felt something crack inside her chest. Not heartbreak, but the shell she'd been living in. Below them, in the service entrance, she could see workers ending their shifts, laughing together despite their exhaustion. One man in a janitor's uniform was helping an elderly woman carry boxes to her car, his smile visible even from this height. When had she stopped smiling like that? "I'm sorry, Trevor. I can't do this." She stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Several nearby tables turned to stare. The Pierce family hated scenes. "You're making a mistake," Trevor said coldly. "Your mother said you'd need guidance." Madison grabbed her purse and walked toward the elevator, her heels clicking against marble floors. As the doors closed, she saw Trevor already on his phone, probably calling her mother. The predictability of it all made her laugh, a real laugh that startled the elevator operator. For the first time in years, Madison Pierce had absolutely no plan, and somehow, that felt like freedom. CTA. "Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. The Pierce family estate in Bellevue sat behind iron gates like a museum piece. Beautiful, untouchable, cold. Madison's mother, Victoria Pierce, waited in the sunroom surrounded by orchids that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Fresh morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating her mother's disappointed expression perfectly. Trevor called last night, quite upset. Victoria didn't look up from her tablet, where she was reviewing the guest list for next month's charity gala. "He mentioned you caused a scene." Madison poured herself coffee from the silver service, her hand steadier than she expected. "I declined his proposal. That's not a scene, Mother. That's a decision. A foolish one." Now Victoria looked up, her blue eyes sharp. "The Hutchinsons are 4th-generation wealth. Trevor's father sits on 5 corporate boards. Do you understand what you're throwing away? A lifetime of conversations about marble and portfolios?" Her older sister, Caroline, glided in wearing tennis whites, her engagement ring from her own suitable match catching the light. "Maddie, come on, you can't be serious. Trevor's a catch. For someone who wants to be caught," Madison said quietly. Victoria set down her tablet with deliberate precision. "Your father built this family from nothing. He understood that marriage is a partnership, a merger of resources, connections, influence. Love is a luxury we can't afford to prioritize. Madison had heard this speech countless times. Her father, who'd made his fortune in commercial real estate, had married Victoria Ashworth, daughter of a prominent Seattle family. It had been strategic, successful, and according to family lore, eventually affectionate. But Madison had seen the separate bedrooms, the polite distance, the way her mother's laugh sounded different around her actual friends. "What if I want something different?" Madison asked, surprised by her own boldness. Caroline laughed, not unkindly. "Different like what? You've never had a job, never lived anywhere but here. What would you even do?" The question hung in the air. Madison thought about the cooking classes she'd taken in secret, the business books she'd been reading, the notebook filled with bakery concepts hidden in her nightstand. She thought about creating something with her own hands, something that made people happy rather than impressed. But she didn't say any of that. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But I know I can't marry someone just because the numbers make sense." Victoria stood, smoothing her designer slacks. "You have 1 month to come to your senses. After that, we're accepting the Carmichael boy's interest. He's less prominent than Trevor, but still acceptable." As her mother left, Madison stared at her reflection in the window. She barely recognized the woman looking back. 3 days later, Madison sat in her BMW outside Pike Place Market, trying to gather courage. She'd driven past this farmer's market dozens of times, but never actually walked through it. That's what delivery services were for, according to her mother. But if she wanted to understand baking as a business, she needed to understand ingredients, suppliers, the real marketplace. The market bustled with morning energy. Fishmongers called out their catches. Flower vendors arranged bouquets, and the smell of fresh bread made Madison's stomach growl despite her expensive breakfast. She felt immediately out of place in her Burberry coat and Louboutin flats. "Can I help you?" A vendor with weathered hands and a warm smile gestured to his organic flower display. Madison hesitated. I want to learn about baking ingredients." "You a baker?" "Not exactly. I'm just exploring options." His smile faded slightly. "Options?" "Right." He turned to help another customer, someone who clearly knew what they wanted. Madison wandered deeper into the market, increasingly aware of the looks she was getting. Her clothes screamed money in a place where most people worked hard for every dollar. At a honey stand, she picked up a jar carefully, examining the handwritten label. $12, the elderly woman said kindly. Madison pulled out her wallet, extracting a $100 bill, the smallest she had. "Do you have change?" The woman's expression shifted, something between amusement and annoyance. "This ain't Nordstrom, honey. Hold on." As the woman disappeared to get change, Madison felt heat creeping up her neck. Behind her, a young mother was trying to count coins for a loaf of bread, clearly short. Without thinking, Madison said, "I'll cover it." The woman looked up, startled, then glanced at Madison's designer bag. "No thanks. We're fine. I was just trying to help. We don't need your charity." The woman's voice was quiet but firm, gathering her children closer. The baker, a black man with kind eyes and flour-dusted apron, intervened smoothly. "Sarah, you know that bread's getting donated anyway at closing. Take it. Feed those babies." He winked at the children, making them giggle, then turned to Madison. "And you, maybe ask before assuming folks need rescuing." Madison felt her face burn. She'd meant well, hadn't she? But something in the baker's gentle rebuke made her realize how condescending her gesture must have seemed. As she left with her overpriced honey, she noticed a man in a maintenance uniform restocking crates near the service entrance. He was organizing delivery boxes with systematic efficiency, but what caught her attention was his smile, genuine and unforced as he joked with the vendors. Something about the way he moved suggested competence beyond his position. She didn't know why she noticed him. She definitely didn't know why she couldn't stop thinking about that smile as she drove home. 2 weeks later, Madison enrolled in a community baking class at Greenwood Community Center. Her mother had been appalled. You could hire a private instructor from Le Cordon Bleu. But Madison wanted something real, something normal. The classroom smelled like vanilla and possibility. She arrived early, setting up her station with nervous precision. Other students trickled in. A retired teacher, a young single mom, 2 college students, and a middle-aged man who looked like he'd come straight from a construction site. The instructor, a cheerful woman named Pam, welcomed everyone warmly. Then he walked in, the man from the market, the one in the maintenance uniform. Today he wore a simple janitor's outfit from a commercial building, the name Marcus stitched above the pocket. He was probably 30, with deep brown skin, an athletic build, and those same warm eyes she'd noticed before. He carried himself with quiet confidence despite his work clothes. "Sorry I'm late," he said, his voice deep and genuine. "Shift ran long." "No worries, Marcus," Pam smiled. "Grab any open station." The only empty spot was next to Madison. As he settled in, she caught herself adjusting her posture, suddenly hyper-aware of her designer jeans and silk blouse, understated by her standards, but still clearly expensive. Marcus didn't seem to notice or care. He simply rolled up his sleeves and studied the recipe card with focused attention. "First time?" he asked conversationally, not looking up. "Yes, you?" "Third class. I'm terrible at it." He grinned. "But my niece wants a birthday cake made with love. Not bought from a store, so I'm learning." Something about his easy admission of imperfection relaxed Madison. "That's really sweet." "She's really sweet. Deserves the effort." They worked in companionable silence for a while, measuring flour and sugar. Then Madison's hand slipped, sending a cup of flour cascading across both their workstations. "Oh God, I'm so sorry." She grabbed paper towels frantically, her cheeks burning. Marcus laughed, a real full laugh. "It's flour, not acid. We're good." He helped her clean up without making her feel worse about the mistake. "Besides, you should have seen me last week. I somehow got egg in my ear. How is that even possible? Still don't know. Pam says I'm a baking mystery." Madison found herself laughing too, genuinely. When was the last time she'd laughed over something so simple? As class progressed, she noticed how Marcus helped the single mom when she struggled with her mixer, how he patiently listened to the retired teacher's long stories, how he treated everyone with the same easy respect, regardless of who they were. There was no calculation in his kindness, no social positioning. When her souffle collapsed, Marcus looked at it seriously. "Abstract art. Very avant-garde. It's a disaster." "Nah, it's a first attempt. There's a difference." He showed her his own slightly lopsided creation. "Look, mine's tilting like it's drunk. We'll figure it out." Walking to her car later, Madison realized she'd forgotten to check her phone for 2 hours. She couldn't remember the last time that had happened. Madison sat in her childhood bedroom, a space that still looked like it belonged to a teenage girl, all soft pastels and safe choices, staring at the business plan she'd been writing. Madison's Kitchen was the working title, but she'd crossed it out 17 times. Every word felt presumptuous. What did she know about running a business? What did she know about anything real? Her laptop glowed with research, commercial kitchen requirements, health permits, startup costs, loan applications. The numbers were staggering. Even with her trust fund, she'd need investors, partners, people who believed in her vision. But why would anyone believe in someone who'd never worked a day in her life? She kept thinking about Marcus. Not romantically. At least, she told herself it wasn't romantic. But there was something about his contentment in that janitor uniform, his pride in learning to bake for his niece, his easy way with people. He seemed to inhabit his life fully, while Madison felt like a ghost in her own. Her phone buzzed. "Carolyn. Mom wants you at dinner tonight. The Carmichael boy will be there. Please be nice." Madison felt her chest tighten. The month her mother had given her was almost up. Blake Carmichael was perfectly nice. Boring, but nice. He worked in finance, played golf, summered in the Hamptons. He was exactly what her family wanted. She thought about Marcus asking what made her excited to wake up in the morning. She'd never actually answered that question, not even to herself. That night at dinner, Blake talked about market volatility, while Madison pushed salmon around her plate. Her father nodded approvingly at Blake's analysis. Her mother beamed. Caroline gave her encouraging looks. "Madison's been taking baking classes," Caroline offered, trying to include her in the conversation. Blake looked amused. "Really? That's a cute hobby." "It's not a hobby," Madison said quietly. "I'm considering opening a bakery." The table went silent. Her father set down his fork. "Sweetheart, that's an impractical fantasy. The failure rate for restaurants. I know the statistics. I've done research. Research isn't experience," her mother said firmly. "You've never held a job, never managed employees, never understood what it means to struggle. This isn't about baking. This is about you searching for purpose in all the wrong places." Blake reached over, patting Madison's hand. "When we're married, you can bake for charity events. That's a wonderful way to contribute. When we're married. Not if. When." Madison excused herself, claiming a headache. In her bathroom, she stared at her reflection again. Her mother's words echoed. "You've never understood what it means to struggle." She was 26 years old and had never truly failed at anything, because she'd never truly tried. CTA. "Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. Madison arrived at class the following week, determined to quit. She'd convinced herself that her mother was right. This was just another privileged whim, another way she was playing at being normal. But when she walked in, the classroom was in chaos. The single mom from class, Jessica, sat in the corner crying while her 2 kids tried to comfort her. The other students huddled nearby, unsure how to help. Marcus was crouched beside her, speaking in low, urgent tones. "What happened?" Madison asked Pam. "Her car broke down on the way here. The repair shop says it's the transmission. $3,000 she doesn't have. She needs that car to get to work, to get the kids to school." Pam shook her head helplessly. Madison watched Marcus pull out his phone, speaking quickly. "Tony? Yeah, it's Marcus Williams. I've got someone who needs help. Dodge Caravan, transmission trouble. What can you do?" He listened, nodded, then turned to Jessica. "My buddy Tony runs an honest shop in Rainier Valley. He says he can do the work for $1,500, parts and labor, and he'll let you pay in installments, no interest." "I don't have $1,500 either," Jessica whispered. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he pulled out his wallet and handed Jessica several bills. "Here's $200. That's a start. I can't take—" "You're not taking. You're borrowing. Pay me back when you can." His voice was firm but kind. "And I'm gonna make some calls. The guys at my building. We've got a thing where we help each other out. We'll figure this out." Madison felt something shift in her chest. Before she could think, she stepped forward. "I'd like to help too." Everyone turned to look at her. She could feel their skepticism, the rich girl wanting to feel good about herself. But Marcus just nodded. "Appreciate that. Jessica, you good with that?" Jessica looked between them, tears still streaming. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll make it to class next week." Marcus grinned. "Can't let my souffle be the worst one forever." The tension broke. People laughed. The retired teacher offered $50. The college students pooled their grocery money. Within 20 minutes, they'd cobbled together enough for Jessica to get her car fixed, with Marcus coordinating everything through his phone, connecting Jessica with Tony, arranging a pickup time. After class, Madison lingered as Marcus cleaned his station. "That was really kind. What you did." He shrugged, not in a dismissive way, but like it was obvious. "She needed help. We help each other. That's how it works." "Not in my world," Madison said quietly. Marcus looked at her directly for the first time. Really looked at her. "Then maybe you're in the wrong world." The words weren't cruel, just honest. Madison felt them settle somewhere deep. "I'm Marcus, by the way. Don't think we've officially met." "Madison? The Madison with the bakery dreams?" She blinked. "How did you talk in your sleep? Or, while you're stress-needing dough?" He smiled. "Don't give up on that dream. Seems like a good one." Madison made the mistake of mentioning Marcus at brunch with her mother's charity committee. She'd only brought him up as an example of community kindness, how people helped each other. She didn't expect the reaction. "How quaint," Mrs. Pemberton said, sipping her mimosa at the Rainier Club. "These people do have their own systems, don't they?" "These people?" Madison's voice came out sharper than intended. Her mother shot her a warning look. Ellen means working-class communities. They're very tight-knit. Out of necessity, Mrs. Vanderhoff added. When you don't have resources, you have to rely on each other. It's actually quite admirable, in its way. Madison felt her stomach turn at the condescension dripping from every word. This was how they spoke about millions of Americans, like they were anthropological subjects, exotic and separate. Marcus has a name, Madison said quietly, and he's probably kinder than anyone at this table. The silence was deafening. Her mother's face went pale. Madison Elizabeth Pierce, apologize? For what? Telling the truth? For being unforgivably rude to our friends. Madison stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Maybe I'm tired of being forgivably polite while we say terrible things. She left before anyone could respond, but her phone started buzzing before she reached her car. Her mother, her sister, family, friends, all with the same message. What's gotten into you? That evening, her father summoned her to his study. He sat behind his massive mahogany desk, looking every bit the patriarch. Your mother tells me you're becoming difficult. I'm becoming aware, Madison corrected. Of what? The noble poor? His voice dripped sarcasm. Let me tell you something about the real world, Madison. I grew up with nothing, absolutely nothing. I worked 80-hour weeks to build this family's fortune. And you know what I learned? People respect success. They respect money. All this hand-holding and charity might make you feel good, but it doesn't change anyone's circumstances. What if I want to change my own circumstances? Her father leaned back, studying her. By what? Opening a bakery? Playing entrepreneur with your trust fund? You'll be bored in 6 months, maybe embarrassed in 3? And then what? You'll have burned bridges with people like the Carmichaels, the Hutchinsons. You'll have associated yourself with janitors and single mothers. Do you understand how society works? How quickly people will write you off? Maybe I want to be written off. No, you don't. His voice softened, became almost kind. You're young. You're rebelling. I understand that. But this family has a reputation to maintain. Your mother and I have worked too hard to watch you throw it away for some working-class fantasy. Madison thought about Marcus, about Jessica, about the community that had rallied around someone in need without hesitation or judgment. She thought about the Rainier Club, where people spent thousands on brunch while discussing these people like they weren't fully human. What if the reputation isn't worth maintaining? She asked quietly. Her father's expression hardened. Then you're not the daughter I raised. Madison showed up to baking class early the next week, her heart pounding. Marcus was already there, setting up his station with his usual methodical care. She'd rehearsed what she wanted to say 100 times, but now every word felt inadequate. Hey, she said, sliding onto the stool beside him. Can I ask you something? Sure. He didn't look up from measuring flour, but his tone was open. How do you do it? Stay so content when the world is structured to make things harder for you. Now he looked up, his expression unreadable. That's a loaded question. I know. I'm sorry, Madison struggled for words. I grew up with everything. Money, connections, opportunities. But I feel like I'm suffocating. And you show up in a janitor uniform, and you seem more at peace than anyone I know. I don't understand. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, considering. You want the real answer or the comfortable one? Real. Okay. He set down his measuring cup. First, I'm not content because I'm poor. I'm not some magical black man who's spiritually fulfilled through struggle. That's a narrative rich folks tell themselves to feel better about inequality. Madison flinched, but he continued, his voice steady and honest. I work as a janitor because I'm building something. I'm saving every dollar I can because I have goals. But yeah, the world makes it harder. I've been pulled over for driving in the wrong neighborhood. I've had women clutch their purses when I get on elevators. I've been followed in stores I can absolutely afford to shop in. That's my reality. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for things you didn't do. Just see them. Acknowledge them. He met her eyes. You asked how I stay content. I focus on what I can control. My work ethic, my kindness, my goals. I choose joy where I can find it. Like learning to bake a cake for my niece, even though I'm terrible at it. Like helping Jessica, because I remember what it felt like when nobody helped me. What do you mean? Marcus's jaw tightened. When I was 12, my mom's car broke down. We didn't have money to fix it. She lost her job because she couldn't get there. We ended up homeless for 8 months. I remember what that felt like. Being invisible, being treated like we were the problem instead of people dealing with problems. Madison felt tears prick her eyes. Marcus, I'm not telling you this for pity. I'm telling you because you asked why I helped Jessica. Because I know what it's like. And because I promised myself that when I had something to give, I'd give it. When you have something to give? Madison was confused. You gave her $200. Yeah, and next month I might need someone to give me $200. That's how community works. We catch each other. Madison realized she'd never been caught by anyone. She'd never fallen far enough to need catching. What are you actually saving for? She asked softly. Marcus smiled, but there was something guarded in it. My own dreams, just like you. The call came during Madison's shift at a local soup kitchen, a volunteer position she'd taken up despite her mother's horror. Jessica's voice was panicked on the other end. Madison? I don't know who else to call. Marcus is at Harborview Hospital. There was an incident. Madison's heart stopped. What happened? He was walking home from his night shift. Some guys, they saw his work uniform, thought he'd be an easy target. Beat him up pretty bad. Madison was in her car. Before Jessica finished explaining, designer heels abandoned for sneakers, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. The hospital's fluorescent lights felt harsh and accusatory as she rushed through the emergency room. She found Marcus in a curtained bay, his right eye swollen shut, stitches along his cheekbone, his lip split. Jessica sat beside him with her kids. Pam from the baking class was there too, and Tony, the mechanic, pacing near the window. I'm fine, Marcus said when he saw Madison, though his voice was rough. Looks worse than it is? You were attacked, Madison said, her voice breaking. Welcome to my Tuesday. He tried to smile, then winced. Sorry, not funny. Tony turned from the window, his expression dark. They took his wallet, his phone, and his work boots. Those boots cost him a week's wages. Did you file a police report? Madison asked. The others exchanged glances. Marcus sighed. Madison, filing a report means dealing with cops who will ask what I was doing in that neighborhood, why I was walking alone, whether I provoked anything. It means possibly missing work while they investigate something they won't actually investigate. I can't afford that. That's not... Madison stopped herself. She'd been about to say, that's not how it works. But she was learning that it was exactly how it worked, just not for people who looked like her. A nurse came by with discharge papers. Marcus couldn't work for at least a week. Doctor's orders. Without work, no pay. Without pay, no rent. Madison watched him try to reassure Jessica's crying children, watched him thank Tony for driving him, watched him maintain his dignity despite the system that kept stripping it away. Something inside Madison finally, completely broke. Not broke like fragile, broke like ice breaks, revealing rushing water underneath. Years of careful conditioning, of polite silence, of looking away from uncomfortable truths. It all shattered. What do you need? She asked Marcus directly. Madison, what do you need? He looked at her, really looked at her, and maybe saw something different than before. Rent's $1,500 due in 3 days. Medical bills will probably be another $1,000 after insurance. New work boots, phone replacement. He shook his head. Honestly, I need about $3,000 to stay afloat. Madison pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. Her mother would see the withdrawal. There would be questions, accusations, probably an intervention. But for the first time in her life, Madison Pierce didn't care about the consequences. What's your Venmo? You don't have to... Marcus, you helped Jessica without hesitation. You help everyone without hesitation. Let someone help you. His good eye searched her face. Finally, he pulled out Jessica's phone and showed her his account. Madison transferred $5,000. The extra is for recovery. Don't argue. For once, Marcus didn't have words. He just nodded, something like respect dawning in his expression. Madison's phone rang at 6 a.m. the next morning. Her mother's fury could melt steel. What have you done? $5,000 to some stranger? Have you lost your mind? Madison sat up in bed, surprisingly calm. His name is Marcus Williams. He's not a stranger. He's a friend. A friend? Madison, we've had background checks run. He's a janitor who was beaten and robbed while walking home from work, Who helps his community without expecting anything back? Who's a better person than anyone I've met in our circle? That's enough. Her father's voice came on. They were both on the call. You're clearly having some kind of crisis. We've made an appointment with Dr. Richardson for this afternoon. I'm not crazy. I'm awake. You're infatuated, her mother snapped. With some fantasy of poverty, of noble struggle. But this isn't a movie, Madison. These aren't your people. Madison felt ice settle in her veins. The good kind of ice. The clarifying kind. You're right. They're not my people. Because my people wouldn't help Jessica fix her car. My people wouldn't learn to bake for a niece they love. My people sit in clubs and judge everyone who doesn't have what they have. We worked for what we have. Dad worked for it. I was born into it. And I've done nothing to deserve it except be born. Madison stood, pacing her room. I'm 26 years old, and I've never earned anything. I want to change that. The silence stretched. Then her father spoke, his voice cold and final. Then you'll do it without our support. If you want to play at being working class, experience it fully. No trust fund, no family money, no connections. Let's see how long your principles last when you're actually struggling. Madison felt the ground shift beneath her feet. The trust fund was supposed to vest when she turned 27, in 8 months. Without it, she had about $15,000 in her personal account. No job experience, no resume, no prospects. She thought about Marcus maintaining his dignity in a hospital bed, about Jessica fighting to keep her car, about communities that caught each other when they fell. Okay, Madison said quietly. Okay? Her mother sounded stunned. Cut me off, I'll figure it out. Madison, don't be ridiculous. This is your ultimatum, isn't it? Fall in line or you're on your own. Well, I choose on my own. Her voice shook but held firm. I'll move out by the end of the week. She hung up before they could respond, her hands trembling. What had she just done? She had no job, no plan, no idea how to survive in the real world. But she knew how to bake, she knew how to learn, and she knew people who'd taught her more about community in 6 weeks than her family had in 26 years. Madison opened her laptop and started searching for studio apartments she could actually afford. CTA, hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. Moving day was humiliating in all the right ways. Madison's studio apartment in Greenwood was 400 square feet on the 3rd floor of a walk-up with no elevator. Her designer furniture wouldn't fit through the door. Her shoe collection was worth more than 3 months' rent. She sold almost everything, keeping only essentials, watching her old life literally pile up in a storage unit she couldn't afford to keep. Jessica and Marcus helped her move. Marcus still healing but insistent on carrying boxes despite Madison's protests. Tony brought his truck. Pam arrived with cleaning supplies and groceries. The college students from baking class painted the dingy walls a cheerful yellow. It was nothing like the coordinated moves Madison had experienced before, but it was real. So this is freedom, Marcus said, looking around the sparse apartment. His eye was still bruised but healing. This is terrifying, Madison admitted, sitting on her one remaining piece of furniture, a chair she'd bought at IKEA for $40. I applied for 12 jobs yesterday, all entry level. I have no idea if anyone will hire me. They will, Jessica said confidently. You're smart, you're determined, and you actually care. That's more than most people. The real test came 3 days later, when Madison ran into her mother at the grocery store. Not Whole Foods, but the regular Safeway, where she was carefully comparing prices. Victoria Pierce stood frozen by the organic produce, staring at her daughter in jeans and a thrift store sweater, holding a basket instead of a cart because she could only afford what she could carry. Madison? Her mother's voice was strained. Mom, you look... Victoria struggled for words. Are you eating properly? I'm learning to budget. It's actually fascinating how much food you can make for $30 if you're creative. Her mother glanced at Madison's basket. Dried beans, rice, chicken thighs, vegetables on sale. This is absurd. Just come home. We can work this out. Madison felt the pull, the easy path, the comfortable life. Then she thought about Marcus teaching her to stretch a dollar, about Jessica sharing her tips for thrift shopping, about the community that had embraced her without judgment. I am home, Mom. Maybe not the home you wanted for me, but it's mine. You're being stubborn. I'm being authentic. Madison met her mother's eyes. For the first time in my life, I'm earning what I have. I got a job, by the way, at a bakery in Ballard. Minimum wage, early morning shifts. I start Monday. Victoria's face crumpled with something between pride and despair. Your father is furious. I know, but maybe one day you'll both understand. I wasn't living before. I was just existing in a bubble. Now I'm living. She left her mother standing there, her own basket light, but her heart somehow fuller than it had ever been. 3 months later, Madison's alarm went off at 4 a.m., just like it did every morning. Her hands had calluses now from kneading dough. Her back ached from long shifts, and her tiny apartment still felt like a shoebox. But when she looked in the mirror, she recognized the woman staring back. The bakery where she worked, Rise and Shine, had become more than a job. The owner, Mrs. Chen, was teaching her the business side: ordering, inventory, customer relations, profit margins. Madison soaked up every lesson like bread absorbs butter. She'd even started experimenting with her own recipes during her breaks, notebooks filled with ideas for the bakery she still dreamed of opening. Marcus met her for coffee on her day off, their weekly tradition. He'd recovered fully from the attack and had news. So, I need to tell you something, he said, stirring his coffee nervously. And I'm not sure how you're going to react. Madison's heart skipped. Okay. My name is Marcus Williams, but my full name is Marcus James Williams II. My grandfather founded Williams Industrial Holdings. My father runs it now. It's worth about $3 billion. Madison stared at him, her coffee halfway to her mouth. What? I grew up with everything. Private schools, trust funds, the works. But I watched my family treat people like they were disposable. Workers were numbers. Communities were obstacles to development. I hated it. He looked down at his hands. When I turned 25, I told my father I wanted to understand what it meant to work for a living. He said I'd last a month. That was 5 years ago. You've been pretending to be poor? No. I've been living on what I earn. Everything else goes to a foundation I started, helping people like Jessica, like my mom was before my grandfather made it. The janitor job is real. The night shifts are real. The struggle to make rent on those wages is real. He met her eyes. I wanted to know if I could survive in the world my family's companies create for workers. Turns out it's brutal. Madison felt her world tilt again, but differently this time. Why didn't you tell me? Because you needed to figure out who you were without your family's money, just like I did. And because... He hesitated. I wanted you to see me, not my last name. The way I saw you. Not as a Pierce, but as Madison. She thought about the past 3 months. The struggle, the growth, the community she'd found. None of it would have happened if she'd known Marcus had money. She would have taken the easy path, let him solve her problems. I'm angry you lied, she said slowly. But I understand why. I have a proposition. Marcus pulled out a folder. I've been looking for someone to partner with on a community bakery project. Someone who understands both worlds, privilege and struggle. Someone who genuinely cares about people, not just profit. Someone who makes a mean sourdough, even if her first soufflé looked like a disaster. Madison opened the folder. Inside were architectural drawings, business plans, and a lease agreement for a space in Rainier Valley, Jessica's neighborhood. Madison's kitchen was written across the top, but with a subtitle, A Community Bakery. The building is paid for, startup costs covered, but you'd run it, your vision, your recipes, your leadership, profits split between paying you a real salary and funding community programs. What do you say? Madison looked at the plans, tears blurring her vision. 6 months ago, she would have said yes immediately, would have taken the easy gift. Now she understood what it meant to earn something, to build something, to be part of something bigger than herself. On one condition, she said firmly. We hire people who need second chances. Single moms like Jessica, people coming back from hard times, people my old world would overlook. Marcus smiled. That same genuine smile she'd noticed. Months ago at the market. I wouldn't have it any other way. Outside the coffee shop window, Seattle rain fell softly on the streets. Madison thought about her mother, who'd started texting her recently, tentative messages that suggested maybe understanding could grow. She thought about her father, still silent but no longer cutting. She thought about Caroline, who'd visited her apartment last week and admitted she was jealous of Madison's courage. But mostly she thought about the woman she'd become. Not perfect, still learning, still stumbling, but real, authentic, free. "Let's build something beautiful," Madison said, extending her hand to Marcus. He took it, his grip warm and sure. "Let's build something that matters." And in that small coffee shop in Greenwood, two people from different worlds, yet somehow the same world, began planning a future that would feed more than just bodies. It would feed community, hope, and the belief that transformation was always possible. Sometimes the shade of love wasn't about romance at all. Sometimes it was about finding yourself in the eyes of people who saw you for who you truly were, and choosing to become someone worthy of that vision. Madison Pierce finally understood what it meant to be rich, and it had nothing to do with money. ND.